you wouldn't want to start detangling ever with a comb, right? That's not the first place that you start. We had twist in for a couple of weeks, so that means that the hair has been kind of like, you know, compressed a little bit, and so there's going to be like sections in there where it's like a little bit more clumped together, and then some sections where it's kind of just loose, you know. So sometimes people at this stage will just go in with the comb and like start combing. You don't ever want to do that because there's sections where the comb is just not going to go through, so you're kind of fighting against yourself. Sometimes the hair will be like sort of dry, and so it's like that will be fighting against you, and then sometimes it's just the curl pattern is just tighter, and so it's grabbing onto itself, and that's fighting against you. So whenever you're detangling, you're always looking for like that movement where the hair is gonna just like slip. It's like, where's the ease in the whole situation? So finger detangling is gonna be the first level of detangling, and that's just separating each of the pieces that wouldn't be able to comb through. You're just separating them apart to the point where they'll just like loosen themselves. And then from there, the next stage would be like a wide tooth comb. And then the next stage after that would be like a smaller kind of like medium distance of the teeth of the comb. Like this one would be like a medium size. This is a balancing comb. We usually use this just for trims. One teeth is like smaller than the other side, and then this one is just like your regular styling like rat tooth comb. So it's also like the smallest teeth that you can get. So you don't want to use either of these two to do any type of detangling, right? These are just for styling or other, you know, types of things. This one you could, but it depends on the curl pattern. Most of the time with detangling, we're going to start with just the wide tooth comb and fingers, and that's going to be like your best level of detangling. Sometimes it's not apparent, you know, that you're not going to fight the hair, because it seems like, oh, what would you possibly do with curly hair? Like maybe it's difficult. It's like, no, it's not difficult. There's just a process to it, you know. I almost see it as like, you know, just the levels getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and you just don't ever start with the smallest, because then you're fighting. You could use a moisturizing product. Our new favorite is the pre-shampoo by, what's that brand? African Pride. You could definitely use that one beforehand. You could use an oil that has a lot of slip, so that would be like olive oil, you know, that would be a good one. So you could use anything that's basically like a pre-shampoo, but something that will allow the hair to slide past itself, and then also that will rehydrate, and that will kind of just get the curls to start like moving instead of just being in a dry state. Because if they're in a dry state, then it's like it's gonna snag and it's more likely to break. It's going to be more brittle, you know, and it just doesn't have to be that way.
So a client, while they're washing their hair, they shed a lot, and they wanted to know how to reduce the shedding.
In my experience, sometimes excessive shedding can be a mineral issue. So sometimes it's an iron deficiency. So check that first, definitely. Sometimes it could be like medications and stuff like that, but if you ruled that out and you know it's not that, excessive shedding could also be stress. It could be breakage just based on like improper detangling. So it's like if you kind of like stressed your hair out before getting to the wash state, like to the shampoo bowl, you'll see a lot of hair coming out, but it's not actually shedding, it's breakage. So like learning how to be gentle with your hair, you might start to see like less of what you think is shedding. I don't feel like a handful of shed hair is normal unless your hair is like super, super long. To me, it's like something is out of balance. It might not be like way out of balance, but it could be better. One of the treatments that I've found that does help with shedding is the bentonite clay and apple cider vinegar. And I'm not sure why this is the case, but I've seen that it does make a good effect. So I remember for one client, we were using it as like a clarifying treatment, and then it helped with her shedding. So it was like an unexpected result.
Now, if we ruled that it was the iron deficiency, what would I do? Is like, could I apply a product?
For an iron deficiency, that would be like an internal situation. So you would want to talk to a doctor or a nutritionist about like, you know, what you can do. There's one supplement that you can research and look into, and that is called Floridix, and it is like a liquid iron supplement, but it's like plant-based. Some iron supplements, they will like cause constipation, but that one, it doesn't create that problem.
Is there such a thing as too much iron?
Yeah,
Is that the constipation part?
yeah, it could be too much iron or like the wrong type of iron, but I'm not really sure. I just know that some people like they take certain types of supplements and they're like, oh, because of iron deficiency, and then to help with my hair, and then they end up with like constipation problems. So it's like just something to watch out for as far as like whenever you're choosing an iron supplement. So this amount of shedding right here is not like a crazy amount. Like that's about a normal amount for this much hair, you know. Your hair sheds 100 hairs per day, you know. So if you're leaving your style in for a while, the longer that you leave it in, you know, without combing it, the more shed hairs you're gonna get. So sometimes, you know, people will like leave in braids and stuff like that, and then they're like, oh my gosh, is my hair falling out? It's like, it might not be, it might just be because it's, you know, in for that long. So like, don't freak out, like more just observe it over time.
There's always a misbelief when it comes to that too. I know that my mother would always say that putting in weave would make your hair shed and bog.
But it's like there's other stuff connected to that. You know? Not that it's like specifically gonna make it shed, but you have other problems, and she is right about that.
Gotcha. If I was a random client that walked in, like, right, and I was like looking for a stylist, should I always ask, are you licensed? Like, is that a thing to do when you're looking for someone?
You can ask if your braider is licensed, if your stylist is licensed, and they shouldn't feel any type of way about that. Braiders in Texas do not have to be licensed, and you know, we're about to go to the event with Isis Brantley where she's celebrating the 9-year with her celebration, and so she was the one that got the laws changed in Texas for braiders, that they are not required to have a license because they're not using chemicals, they're not using certain types of cutting tools on the natural hair, and they're not putting their clients into danger by practicing the braiding styles that we do. And so she got the laws changed basically so that we can practice without having a license. So if you do ask your stylist or your braider if they're licensed, example, if your braider is braiding in a shop, they don't have to be licensed, but the shop should be licensed, and so you can ask about that. Your stylist, she should be proud to have a license, basically, so if you ask to see her license, she'll be like, yes, of course, you know, this is my license number. You know, you can check on the TDOR website, and that is the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. You can look up any braider in Texas, or not braider, any stylist in Texas, any barber in Texas, and they will have their license number displayed on there, and they will have whether or not it's current, and it'll be displayed there as public knowledge.
So a braider doesn't have the label of being a stylist, but if they become licensed, a braider is a stylist.
Exactly.